Well, I think we have to take the question of vulnerability and cybersecurity of these electronic medical devices in a stepwise manner. We have to deconstruct that. There are too many elements in this kind of analysis to just lump it all together. So, for example, let's say we're talking about a standalone medical device that one would not expect to be networked and connected to anything else. One might assume that that device is not vulnerable from a cybersecurity standpoint. However, many standalone medical devices that are not networked in day-to-day operation are still connected to a computer intermittently, perhaps to upload a patch, or to change configuration, or to perform some other modification. And so there are possibilities that a connected computer, especially one running a standard operating system with known vulnerabilities, could potentially transmit or somehow affect that device when it's connected, even if it's intermittent. So we shouldn't categorize the cybersecurity-related risks, to only those devices which are constantly or intermittently networked as part of a typical network system, wired or wireless. So that's one thing we should think about. The other is that it's theoretically possible to connect a USB drive to a device. That's a standalone non-network device. Now, we also have to put into context that most of these are theoretical concerns with very little evidence that there have been problems related to these potential vulnerabilities. Now, the lack of evidence of problems doesn't necessarily mean that there haven't been any, and also there may not be any great interest in someone performing some nefarious activity and affecting a medical device, especially one that is difficult to access, located in a hospital, in a semi-secure location, and where there may not be anything interesting worth doing to that device. There may or may not be protected health information on devices. So we should dig into that a bit more, especially the PHI aspect in medical devices. But I think stepwise, don't exclude devices that are not continuously networked from potentially being affected by cyber vulnerabilities. The second, of course, is this general concern that in the world of medical devices, just as in the world of our network computers, that networking greatly increases the risk surface and the ease of transmission of malware, for example, assuming that the equipment is vulnerable. Potentially that's true. However, that may not be the case. It may be that the medical devices that are networked, some of them they're quite old, or they use proprietary or embedded operating systems that may or may not have vulnerabilities that have been discovered, unlike those that are constantly being discovered on commercial off-the-shelf systems or standard desktop operating systems. So some of these are fairly obscure. They're getting more attention now because of the interest in hacking and in cybersecurity. The information transmitted on the networks that those devices use might be a very small subset of information. For example, only to transmit alarms or device status. It isn't the same type of information as we would find on networked computers, for example, that have browsers. So again, it's a potentially different environment, somewhat complex, and the devil's in the details in terms of the potential for vulnerability. So all of that, kind of a long way to say, let's not just lump don't assume that network medical devices are the same as a pool of network computers in a typical environment. They may function very differently.